Hello, everyone. We want to welcome you to our webinar today on why intranets are even more important in the age of AI. Today's webinar will be approximately 30 minutes long. We won't have a live Q&A after, but please feel free to enter questions and comments in the chat and we will follow up. We'll also be sending everyone a link to a recording, so no need to take notes. Before we jump in, let's introduce ourselves. We are both digital workplace consultants at Habanero, and what that means is that we spend our days working side by side with organizations on digital workplace projects. So that includes intranets, collaboration environments, governance, information architecture, communication strategy, and increasingly AI readiness conversations. I've been with Habanero for almost 11 years now, and I am really excited to start sharing with you all that I've learned today. Madeline?
Awesome. And I've been with Habanero for about 4 years now. So between the two of us, we've seen a lot of real-world digital workplace challenges unfold inside organizations. And I think that's part of what makes this conversation interesting right now, because the questions organizations are asking around AI, well, they're not theoretical anymore. These conversations are happening in steering committees, governance meetings, and even in budget discussions around intranet investments. And honestly, sometimes they're happening with a little bit of panic. Part of the challenge right now is simply the pace of change. A lot of intranet owners and communicators feel like things are evolving so quickly that they can barely keep up. And one of the biggest questions that people are asking is, what should we actually be doing today to make sure our intranet and digital workplace are ready for AI? Before we get started, I'll share a little bit about Habanero for those who may be new to us. Here at Habanero, we help organizations strengthen culture, improve employee engagement, and increase productivity. We've been designing and implementing award-winning intranets for more than 25 years, and we're proud to have 5 intranets recognized through the Step 2 Intranet and Digital Workplace Awards. For those who haven't heard of Habanero, we've been helping our clients build the world's best intranets on top of the SharePoint platform for over 25 years. In 2016, we launched our Go Intranet platform to help communicators create more compelling intranet experiences on top of SharePoint Online by addressing many of the gaps and shortcomings that exist out of the box. And recently, we've seen AI start to reshape the intranet landscape in a really significant way. Because as AI becomes more embedded into the digital workplace, organizations are realizing that the quality of their intranet and information environment directly impacts the quality of the AI experience their employees will have. Thanks for setting the context, Madeline. I think one of the things we really want to do today is bring some calm and clarity to the conversation, because there is so much noise right now. Every week, there's a new AI announcement. It's a new tool. It's another headline about AI replacing work as we know it. And for intranet owners, communicators, it can really start to feel overwhelming. Like, how is anyone supposed to keep up with this pace? 100%. And hopefully by the end of today, one of the key takeaways is that your role is not becoming less important. It's becoming more strategic. The work of creating trusted, well-structured, and well-governed information environments is becoming foundational to successful AI adoption. And that's actually a really exciting shift. So let's start with what we're all feeling right now. There's a huge amount of excitement around AI, and that's for good reason. We're seeing faster access to information, quicker content creation, easier translation, and entirely new ways for employees to interact with knowledge. It's changing how people work at a pace that most of us have never experienced before. But alongside that excitement, there's also uncertainty for internet and communications teams. We're hearing questions like, if an employee can just ask Copilot a question, do we really still need an intranet? Is AI search going to replace navigation entirely? Should we still be investing in intranet experiences? These are valid questions. We're hearing them everywhere, from sales to strategy conversations and those with executives. And the reason they feel so big right now is because AI is fundamentally changing how people look for information. Traditionally, intranets were built around browsing, navigation, and keyword search. Now employees are expecting something much more conversational. They want to ask a question and get an answer immediately. But what we really want to emphasize is this. AI does not reduce the need for a strong intranet. It actually raises the stakes.
because the internet is no longer just a destination. It becomes part of the knowledge foundation that your AI relies upon to generate answers. So, in that sense, its importance actually increases.
And what's interesting is that while the way that employees access information is changing, the importance of trusted information only grows because employees are increasingly consuming synthesized answers rather than evaluating source content directly. And that creates a whole new challenge. How do we ensure that what they're seeing is accurate, current, and authoritative?
Exactly. The question is now shifting from how do I find that information to can I trust the answer I just got? And if someone receives a bad answer, they may not even realize that it's wrong. So it becomes even more important not to simply turn AI on without prepping the environment behind it. If employees have a poor experience early on, they may start to see the AI as unreliable overall. And that is where internet governance teams become incredibly important. Before we get into the complexity, it's worth acknowledging why organizations are so excited. AI brings real value, especially through the natural language search. Employees don't need to know exact keywords or where something lives anymore. They simply can ask a question and get an answer. And that dramatically lowers the barrier to knowledge. But for that to work well, the underlying information environment has to be strong. Being on SharePoint doesn't automatically make an internet AI ready. There is still intentional work required around structure, governance, ownership, permissions, and content quality.
And in large organizations, that becomes even more important because employees are already dealing with information overload. Too many systems, too many versions, and too many places where things could live. So the idea of simply asking, what's our expense reimbursement process? And getting a clear answer, well, that's incredibly compelling.
And then there's the content creation side. Communicators and content authors are using AI to help draft announcements, summarize long form content, rewrite things into plain language, adjust the tone of voice, generate FAQs, and even create versions of content in multiple languages. It's so much easier than it ever was before and can save huge amounts of time.
One thing I've noticed is that communicators and content authors are often genuinely relieved by this because these teams, they're usually overwhelmed. There's almost always more content demand than time available in the day. So, when AI can help reduce some of the repetitive drafting work, it gives people more time to focus on strategy, audience needs, and storytelling.
And personalization is another area that people are really excited about. Historically, creating personalized internet experiences could be very difficult and expensive. AI now makes it much easier for experiences to adapt to someone's role, team, location interests, or the way they work. And that creates opportunities to deliver information that feels much more relevant and useful to employees.
But I think this is where it becomes important to separate relevant from meaningful, because personalization can absolutely help reduce noise. But organizations still need shared spaces. And honestly, this is one of the reasons that intranets still matter so much. Intranets are not just repositories of information. They help employees discover things that they didn't even know to search for in the first place. AI is incredibly good at helping someone retrieve a specific answer, but intranets are still incredibly important for helping employees connect the dots. They create space for discovery, context, culture, and shared understanding across the organization. People still need common understanding. They still need culture, they still need visibility into leadership activity, and those are things that intranets do extremely well.
Now, this is where things start to get a little fuzzy because, while AI tools are incredibly powerful, the experience can sometimes feel a bit uncertain. Employees often don't know what information sources are actually being searched, how those answers are being prioritized, whether the information is verified or current, or whether the answer is being pulled from some authoritative content or from random documents sitting somewhere in the organization. And that lack of visibility can really create a trust problem.
One of the things we've actually started seeing is that employees are treating AI answers almost like facts. There's a confidence in the delivery. The answer it gives sounds polished, it sounds intelligent, and the answer sounds complete. But employees may not realize that the answer could be pulling from an outdated draft or an abandoned SharePoint site or even conflicting versions of documents.
And the AI isn't being intentionally misleading, it's simply operating within the information environment it has access to. That distinction is pretty important.
Yeah, and this is actually one of the biggest mindset shifts that organizations need to make. AI quality is directly tied to information quality. Organizations sometimes approach AI as though it's magically going to solve their information problems. But in reality, AI often exposes those information problems.
Great point, Madeline. AI shines a very bright light on your governance gaps. Suddenly, organizations start uncovering all kinds of content and governance issues that they didn't fully realize existed. Some of these might even sound familiar to you. We've been hearing things like, oh, we have 5 versions of this policy? Why is this old draft still accessible? Wait, employees can see that? And those issues become much more visible once AI starts surfacing content broadly, which is why we keep emphasizing that AI readiness is not just about turning on AI tools. Your internet and information environment needs to be ready to support the AI in the right ways. It's not really an, oh, we'll just plug the AI into the internet, and everything will magically work situation. There is real preparation involved. Now, before we go further, we should probably reiterate that the term AI is very broad.
Oh, it's very broad. And sometimes people are actually talking about completely different things while using the very same word.
Exactly. So for the purposes of today, and in the context of intranets, we're mainly talking about 3 things. AI-powered search experiences, which we've been talking about. AI-assisted content creation. And AI agents. And while those things are very different, they are related.
So, for example, if someone opens Copilot and asks, "What is our vacation policy?" That's typically what we consider a broad AI search experience. The AI is going to cast a wide net. It might pull from SharePoint, Teams, OneDrive, documents, emails, chats, meeting notes, really anything the employee already has access to. Whereas specialized HR agent might only reference verified HR policies, approved HR procedures, and curated HR knowledge bases. So the scope of the HR agent is being intentionally constrained, and that creates a more trustworthy experience for employees.
And this is one of the reasons that organizations are increasingly interested in agents, because they allow organizations to create more intentional experiences.
But then we also get another challenge, something that we refer to as agent sprawl. Agents are starting to pop up across organizations without a clear strategy for how they're all going to fit together or even what the overall employee experience should look like. And right now, we're even seeing that a lot of different platforms are all trying to compete to become the main place that employees go to for help, whether that's Copilot or ServiceNow or Workday or some other app. The industry is still figuring out how these agents work together in a connected way, so there really isn't a simple answer just yet. But we are starting to see new tools and governance approaches emerge to help organizations manage what can otherwise become a bit of a Wild West.
Yes, and honestly, I think this is where things may start to feel very familiar to anyone who has worked in intranets for a while. Because employees still need clarity around where to go, what agent to trust, and how the different tools fit together. We've seen this pattern before. Every department wants their own solution.
Talk about deja vu. Everyone suddenly wants their own agent. IT wants one, HR wants one, finance wants one, maybe even your project teams want one. And pretty quickly, organizations risk creating yet another fragmented ecosystem.
Which raises governance questions again. Who owns these agents? Who keeps them updated? Who makes sure that the information is accurate? Who decides when they should be retired? And how do organizations even measure whether they're being successful?
And honestly, this is where intranet and governance teams can play an incredibly important role. These teams already understand how to create structure, clarity, and trust within complex information environments.
One of the biggest themes we're seeing right now is what we call the trust gap. Employees love the convenience of AI generated answers. They love being able to ask a question conversationally and instantly get something back. But at the same time, they're increasingly unsure whether those answers are actually reliable. And honestly, I think this is one of the biggest questions internet owners and communicators should be thinking about right now as they prepare for an AI future. How do we create that information environment that the AI can pull from in a way that still is trustworthy to employees?
Yeah, exactly. Because AI is very good at surfacing information, but it is not inherently good at determining whether information is trustworthy, current, intentional, or even appropriate for a particular audience. I mean, think of situations where you have union and non union employees. That part, that still requires humans. And that's where an intranet, content authors, and communications teams become incredibly important.
Historically, your internet and governance conversations were often viewed as operational. They're now becoming foundational to AI success. Because if employees stop trusting the answers that the AI gives them, they're going to start compensating. They're going to be double checking answers. They're going to be asking coworkers. They're going to be reverting back to all their old habits. And suddenly, all the efficiency gains that organizations were hoping for begin to disappear.
Not to mention, does the employee even know that the answer shouldn't be trusted? This is why we spend so much time talking about content hygiene. Because if your trusted internet content gets buried among years of unmanaged collaboration content, or abandoned project sites, or duplicate files, or even archived information that really should have been retired, the value of that trusted content starts to diminish. The AI may not understand the difference between an official approved policy and someone's draft from 3 years ago.
So much so, Madeline. It's simply working with the information permissions and content environment that it has access to, which means organizations really need to start thinking more intentionally about how content is created, managed, governed, archived, and maintained over time.
And honestly, internet owners and communicators need to become strong advocates for content hygiene across the organization, not just within the internet itself. I'm talking org wide here. Because AI isn't only looking at your polished intranet homepage, it's looking across collaboration sites, document libraries, Teams environments, old SharePoint sites, shared files, and all the messy content ecosystems that your organization has accumulated over time. So part of the role now becomes helping other teams understand the challenges that poor content hygiene creates in an AI enabled world.
And the organizations that are probably in the strongest position right now are the ones that have already invested in strong information governance management principles. They already understand content ownership. They have review cycles. They have clearer governance and permissions practices. And all of that puts them in a much stronger position for AI readiness.
Oh, absolutely, Natalie, because AI tends to amplify whatever environment already exists. So, if an organization has thoughtful governance and strong information management practices, AI can make those environments even more valuable. But if an organization has years of unmanaged sprawl, well, AI exposes those issues very quickly. And that's why we really encourage internet owners not to sit on the sidelines of AI strategy conversations. If your intranet content is going to become part of the foundation your AI relies on, then your expertise absolutely needs to be represented in those conversations. Because this is not just a technology conversation, it's a governance conversation. It's a conversation about content management, and it's a content quality conversation. And internet teams already have a lot of the skills and experience that organizations need to navigate this successfully.
So maybe let's make this practical for a minute, because I think at this point, a lot of people are wondering, okay, this all makes sense conceptually, but what should we actually be doing right now? And honestly, feeling overwhelmed is completely understandable because the landscape is changing so quickly and the work might seem very big. But the good news is that organizations do not need to solve everything overnight. There are some very practical foundational things you can start focusing on today to put yourself and your organization in a much stronger position for AI readiness.
Absolutely. And one of the first things your organization should do is simply get a better understanding of your content landscape. What content is considered authoritative? And who owns it? How current is this content? Who has access to it? And where does duplicate content exist? Because a lot of organizations are realizing that they don't actually have great visibility into the state of their information ecosystem right now. Thankfully, though, Microsoft has started introducing more tools to help with this. For example, SharePoint Advanced Management includes inventory and reporting capabilities that can help identify things like inactive sites, sites without owners, or environments that may need attention from a governance perspective. Organizations can also implement lifecycle policies that require site owners to periodically confirm whether their sites are still active and needed. And I know that sounds really simple, but honestly, it's incredibly valuable because it helps reduce the accumulation of abandoned or outdated content over time.
Another area organizations should really be thinking about is retention and compliance.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when people hear clean up your content, they immediately worry that important information could accidentally get deleted. But this is where working closely with your compliance and records management teams could become really important. Tools like Microsoft Purview can help organizations apply retention and records management policies appropriately, just to ensure that important information is preserved where needed, while helping to reduce unnecessary or high-risk content that no longer serves a purpose. And honestly, this is one of those moments where governance, compliance, IT, and intranet teams really can collaborate much more closely together.
Exactly. And if your organization is using Go for your intranet, there are also built-in content lifecycle management capabilities that can help support ongoing governance practices. For example, organizations can set review dates for intranet pages and documents so content owners can receive reminders to validate and refresh their content on a regular basis.
And permissions governance and an overarching plan for permissions is also very important. AI respects permissions, and so going forward, having tighter permissions plans is important. And cleaning up your old permissions? Well, honestly, permissions cleanup is one of those things that organizations often delay because it feels overwhelming and not terribly satisfying. But SharePoint Advanced Management also has several reports which identify sites as potentially oversharing. This is likely something to work on with your IT team, so why not schedule a coffee and start a chat? One thing we also encourage organizations to think about carefully is how difficult they make it for teams to publish and share information appropriately. Because sometimes internet publishing processes become very complicated or restrictive, and departments start creating their own workarounds. They might create a new SharePoint site. It's standalone, duplicate repositories, informal collaboration spaces, all because it feels easier than navigating the official process.
Yep, we've definitely seen that. And then over time, that actually contributes to the very content sprawl that organizations are now struggling with in AI experiences. So part of this work is not just tightening your governance. It's also making it easier for good, trustworthy, and broadly relevant content to be shared in the right places. Because ultimately, we want to help important organizational content rise above the noise and not get buried inside of it.
So we've talked a lot about the operational and tactical side of this work, but there's also a very human side to all of this. Because for a lot of employees, the pace of change right now, well, it feels pretty exhausting.
Absolutely. And there's excitement, understandably so, but there's also a sense of anxiety around it. From an organizational perspective, organizations are feeling pressure because AI can sometimes feel a bit like a slot machine. You ask the same question twice and you get two slightly different answers. Meanwhile, employees are still wondering whether their roles are going to change, whether they'll still be needed, whether they're already behind, or what skills are actually going to matter moving forward. There's also this growing concern around productivity expectations. And that's this idea that if AI makes people more efficient, employees may suddenly be expected to do significantly more with the same amount of time and energy.
And I think internet and communications teams can play a huge role in helping organizations navigate this change. Not just through the information management piece, but through helping employees with the change itself. And communications teams are often at the center of helping organizations navigate large-scale change successfully.
Yeah, great point, Natalie. Because successful AI adoption, it's not just a technology rollout. It's change management and communication and governance. It's trust building and education. And all of these things are deeply human challenges. And communicators play an incredibly important role in all of them.
So AI should not replace the internet entirely, because not every interaction should become a question and answer exchange. There is still tremendous value in helping employees discover information naturally, to stumble across it, understand the bigger picture, come across updates or initiatives that they may have not thought to search for themselves.
Absolutely. And employees still benefit from curated experiences, storytelling, and moments that reinforce culture and connection. AI is excellent at retrieving answers, but intranets help people feel connected to the organization itself. Intranets create shared understanding, support engagement, and help employees feel like they belong, especially through periods of change and during moments like onboarding, where people are trying to find their footing and understand how everything fits together.
So when we think about the future role of internet teams, we actually think that the role is going to become more strategic, not less. You're no longer simply publishing content. You're helping shape trust, discoverability, organizational clarity, and employee understanding.
And organizations investing heavily in AI tools are eventually going to realize something important. The tools are only as effective as the information environment behind them. And for many organizations, that information environment is deeply connected to their intranet and the broader SharePoint ecosystem. But simply being in SharePoint does not automatically make an intranet AI ready. So when organizations talk about preparing for an AI-enabled future, intranet and content readiness really needs to become part of that conversation. It's not enough to simply turn AI tools on and hope for the best. And I think that's one of the biggest mindset shifts that organizations are still working through right now.
And honestly, this moment is a huge opportunity for all of us. Organizations are actively trying to figure this out, which means people who understand information ecosystems have the opportunity to shape what responsible, trustworthy, and AI adoption actually looks like.
Exactly. And that's really exciting because for years, internet teams have been advocating for better governance, stronger permissions hygiene, clear content ownership, and thoughtful information architecture. And now, organizations are realizing that those things are not just nice to have, those things are critical.
Well, hopefully, we didn't leave everyone with more AI questions than when we started. But honestly, this space is changing so quickly that a lot of organizations are just figuring out as they go. And that is completely natural. Hopefully, today, we helped bring a little more clarity and maybe a little more confidence to where internet and digital workplace teams fit into all of this.
And I think one of the most important things to remember is that you don't need to solve everything overnight. A lot of what makes AI successful actually comes back to strong fundamentals: trusted content, thoughtful governance, clear ownership, and good employee experiences. And those are things that intranet and communications teams have been championing for years. So, thank you all so much for joining us today and spending this time with us here while we talk about this. And if you'd like to keep the conversation going, please reach out. Natalie and I genuinely talk about this stuff all the time, and we're always happy to continue the conversation.
If you have any questions, let's grab a coffee. We hope to connect with you again sometime soon.